Welcome to Upon Lake DIY. I'm Monica. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm sharing co-hosting honors with my good friends Dawn of Shabby Meets Bling and Annie of Crafting with Indie Annie Jones for the It's Always Halloween collaboration. We're joined by lots of our talented friends, and you're going to find links to both Annie and Dawn's channels, as well as a link to the playlist in the description box. Today we're going to be making Perpetua, the adorable pumpkin-headed witch in training in her zippy witch boot car. So let's get into it. I'm going to need some model magic, and I'm trying to use up items that I have around the house. So we're also going to be using a scrap from a Dollar Tree foam cone. It's like the top section, and a 1.9 inch foam ball, also from the Dollar Tree. As is pretty standard with me, I'm going to press flat spots on the top and bottom of the ball just by pressing down on the table. This allows us to stack the ball on top of that little piece of cone, as you can see here. And I'm also going to be using a scrap of a skewer to connect the head with the body, but we'll do that later. First things first, we're going to need to add some texture to that piece of cone, because it's one of those smooth cones, you know what I mean? So I'm just going to use this tool here to scratch in some grooves. The texture is going to help the clay stick to the foam. Now I'll grab a handful of clay. I'm going to condition it by kneading it and just kind of smashing it up with my hands there. And then we're going to roll it nice and flat. I'll cut the clay down just a wee bit, to make a better fit to the cone. And we're going to wrap that clay around the foam cone. And I'll roll it on the table to ensure that it adheres to the foam and to smooth it. I fill any of the bare spots with the excess clay. And again, I'll continue to roll it on the table to smooth it out. I rolled out more clay and covered my foam ball just the same way. And again, I'll fill in any bare spots with the excess clay, rolling it on the table to smooth it just like I did with the cone. I'll grab more clay and I'm going to roll this into a nice thick cane. I cut the cane into 4 equal sections, and then I'm going to use my acrylic roller to flatten those sections. These are going to be the ribs of our pumpkin. I want them to be wide enough that they'll cover the entire ball. I'm going to attach the ribs to the ball, starting at the top, pressing the clay down around the curvature of the pumpkin, and I'll cut away any excess. I'll add the other 3 ribs in the exact same way to encase the head. This way we'll have 4 equal sections completely around her head. I'm going to use the handle of a clay tool to roll over where the ribs meet each other to smooth out that area, but also to define it to make sure that you can see the segments. You know what I'm saying? I still want the groove to remain so that it looks like the ribs of a pumpkin. I want her to be a little more on the rustic folk art side, so I'm grabbing another handful of clay to create her hat. I'll roll it into a cane, creating a point at one end, and I'll flatten the other end to create the brim of the hat. So you can see I'm just pressing down on the table to flatten that bottom out, and I'll just use my fingers to shape it. I push a toothpick into the center of the top of the pumpkin to anchor the hat. So once I get it in there, I'll slide the hat right over the toothpick, and then I'll just shape the hat in the clay to my liking. Now at this time, I'm going to poke holes in the bottom of the head and the top of the body with my skewer. To create her arms, we're going to roll another cane of clay, proportionate to her tiny wee body, and then we're going to cut them to size, and we'll push them into place. Perpetua is very top heavy. Her head is like twice the size of her body. So you can see I'm just using my fingers to shape the arms and press them right there along the side of her body, wrapping around to the front. I roll over the clay in the back of the arms with the handle of my tool to incorporate the arm with the body. We're keeping her nice and simple. So we can set her aside for the moment and let's work on her boot car. You may remember this Victorian boot that I made for New Year's. So I wanted to create something very similar, but with a witchy twist. So I altered the original pattern slightly to give the boot a pointed toe, and I changed the scallops to points, and I also straightened the edge around the top of the boot, for a more witchy vibe. And I'm going to create this the same way I did the Victorian boot, by rolling out some clay and cutting out the pattern pieces with an X-OXO knife. I've rolled this clay a wee bit thicker because I want the sole to have a little more body to it. So I'm just going to place my sole pattern on top of the clay and use my X-OXO to cut it out. I rolled the clay a wee bit thinner for the rest of the shoe pieces, and I'm going to cut those out as well. There are 5 pieces altogether: the sole, the toe, the 2 side pieces, and then there's the decorative flap. Now everything is cut and we can start assembling. I've placed the sole in front of me, and grabbing the side pieces of the boot, I'm going to slightly overlap them in the back. Then I'll wrap them along the sole, aligning the edges of the sides with the edge of the sole. I'm going to overlap the larger side across the shorter side in the front, just like this. I created a small triangle from clay to add to the front of the boot as support. So this will be where the toe piece will go, which we're going to attach by aligning the point on the toe piece to the point on the front of the boot. And I start by wrapping it around toward the back and then pressing down the front and closing the front of the shoe. And I'm going to go along the bottom edge here. Just make sure everything is in contact and it's all nice and neat. I placed this packing cylinder into the boot for support. This is going to make it easier to smooth the edges and to add the flap. I'm going to grab my ball tool here and I'm going to roll over the edges to incorporate them and to shape the clay. I want that edge to be, nice and smooth. I'm going to go around the back where the 2 side pieces meet back there, that seam, and make sure that that's nice and smooth as well. Before I attach the decorative flap, I'm going to dampen my fingers and then dampen the clay where it's going to go because the clay's starting to get a wee bit dry. Now we're going to want to smooth out that edge of the decorative flap there too. So I just rolled over that again with my ball tool. And I'm pressing to make sure everything has really good contact. I created the buttons by rolling 4 small clay balls, and we're just going to press them in the center of each of the points along that decorative flap. Now the boot is done, but we still have to make the wheels. So let's do that. I used the bottle cap to cut 4 wheels from some flattened clay, and we're going to let all of the clay pieces dry overnight. Everything has dried really nicely, nothing's cracked, so we're ready to paint. I'll start by base coating the witch's hat with Ceramcoat Hippo Gray, 2 coats. Her wee dress is also going to get 2 coats of Hippo Gray, but I am going to leave her hands unpainted. So I'm just going to trace around her hands with a thin detail brush. And then I'll come in and fill in the rest with a flat brush. I give Perpetua's pumpkin head and her hands 2 coats of Americana's spiced pumpkin. We're going to do her hands here real quick. The boot is going to get 2 coats of Ceramcoat charcoal, including the inside. I also have these 2 small wood cubes, and I'm going to paint those charcoal as well. They're going to get attached to the bottom of her boot. The wheels will get 2 applications of Americana Cadmium Orange, front and back. Everything is base coated, so now for the fun part, details. We're going to start by dry brushing Perpetua's pumpkin head with some of the cadmium orange to add some dimension. We're going to do her hands too. I'm coming back in, this time with Americana Light Cinnamon, and I'm going to dry brush a little harder here. I'm making sure to get into the grooves of the ribs and really all around her face, especially where the hat meets her head. And everything we do to her head, we'll do to her hands. I dry brush the hat with charcoal to start, and I think I'm going to add some of it to her face as well, especially in the grooves to define them. Add a wee bit of shadow. You know what I'm saying? And now some charcoal on her body, especially right there around her arms, because there would be shadow there. So I want to make sure, get it kind of dark right there. And while we're at it, we're going to go around the edges of the wheels as well. My first layer of dry brushing on the boot is going to be with the cadmium orange. I'm going to go heavy here, and we're going to come back with some other colors, but this is a good place to start. We'll follow that up with some spiced pumpkin dry brushing, really focusing on the edges and any of the details. So now, back to Perpetua, I decided we're going to add some spiced pumpkin to the body and hat as well. Because, I like everything to be cohesive, like to pull in all those colors. And we'll add some to the hat, especially around the edge. We're going to come back and add an additional color to the dry brushing, but right now I want to add the jack-o'-lantern faces to the wheels. We're going to do the faces with some charcoal and my 000 detail brush. I'm keeping it very basic, just a simple, typical jack-o'-lantern face. Right, so now we're going to come in and do some of the dry brushing with Americana Irish Moss. I really thought that it needed that contrast of the green up against the orange. You feel me? Yeah, so we're going to start around the edge of the wheels here, and then we're going to move on to Perpetua herself, and of course to the boot. Adding a hint of green to her hat, and I'll even do a little on her face and of course on her dress. Just a smidge on the body. And we'll go a wee bit heavier on the boot, just a wee bit. It's still very soft, but it's evident. I add some stripes around her cuffs with the Americana Irish moss. And in the middle, I'll give her a light cocoa stripe. That's also an Americana color. Let's give her a couple of buttons, first with the cocoa, and then we're going to come in and make smaller buttons on top with the green. I'm going to add some highlights to the features on the wheels with the cocoa as well. Now onto her face, I'm using charcoal here. I'm going to make her eyes by doing an upside down U and then a right side up U right on top of the upside down U. Very simple, very basic. Eyebrows, just quick dashes. A dot for the nose. Boop. Let's make her mouth a U as well. Just a simple U. There we go. I'm going to use light cinnamon to dot on her cheeks, and then once those dry, we'll dot over those with some of the spiced pumpkin. And just like we did with the jack-o'-lanterns, we're going to add some highlights to her eyes, nose, and mouth with the light cocoa. I'll use some Deco Art multi-purpose sealer to protect the clay. I'm just going to pounce it on with a cosmetic sponge to all the clay pieces. Using my 3-in-1 glue, I'm going to attach the wood cubes to the bottom of the shoe. This is going to elevate the shoe so that we can attach the wheels. I really just want to make sure that the cubes are centered correctly so that the shoe stands up on its own, and then we can add the wheels. A little more 3-in-1 on the wheels are going to hold those in place. I add a drop of glue inside the holes that I poked in the head and the body, and then I'm going to use the skewer to attach the two pieces together. And all we need to do now is add a few doodads to her, pop her in her car, and she's done. Shall we take a look? I added a leaf-studded ribbon around her neck and a pipberry cluster to the very front, like a brooch. Her hat is embellished with a pipberry wreath and a wee sign that says, Witch in Training. I think Perpetua, the pumpkin witch in training, is pretty cute. How cool would it be to drive a witch's boot around town? I love her. I think she's so sweet. And she satisfied that need in me for a wee touch of Halloween. Let me know what you think. Thanks to Dawn and Annie for co-hosting. Please be sure to check out their channels, as well as the playlist. Show everyone some love. You're going to find the links in the description box. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. Stay creative, my friends. Thanks for hanging with me. See you next time. Up all night with Monica.